these were the 15 companies that were selling liquid cannabis, you know, Eli Lilly and Lloyd's and all of them. But the bottom line is, look at this picture of these two guys working on one vat of tincture with the 12 vats on either side of them. It looks like a beer vat plant in 1929. And this was all for pain relief, not to get high. Strictly pain relief. You know, liquid cannabis. Cannabis tincture. Fluid extracts. But look at that plant. I mean, they wasn't making a few gallons of it. So if all 15 of them were distributing some form of liquid cannabis, obviously, you know, it's a hell of a damn market at one point.
Trying to work.
But anyhow, that's my Natural Nectar 1.
What's the process of making that?
It's just a pure ancient process of alcohol extraction, just like the Egyptians did. It's the oldest form of, you know, tincture making in the world. Liquid cannabis is something that I stumbled onto when I was looking up what the government was recommending. And apparently the government and the doctors, they'll never recommend smoke. So all of the universities in the United States, all the studies are based on liquid cannabis. And if you Google medical cannabis, it'll download a book of all the universities and all the things to use liquid cannabis for. Well, me being against white refined sugar, and I looked around, there was nobody making a true ancient tincture. Everybody was using sucrose and making something that tasted good. So I started making a standard tincture just the way they've always made since the 15th century, and even before that. But anyhow, bottom line is accepted ancient alchemy, you know, methods, which basically means instead of using waste product to make the tincture, I use nothing but buds, and use the whole bud though. I don't trim it or anything, so it's got all the, you know, sugar leaves with all the cannabinoids and all the oils. Now I can make it where it doesn't have the whole mix, but that's the healing effect of your, you know, basic herbal medicine type of concept that you're doing. So anyhow, I made up the liquid cannabis and started distributing, and basically when my customers would come in to buy pot, I would give them the liquid cannabis as a perk. And, you know, I stumbled into different people that it worked for. Well, David, across the street over here, has an extreme disease. He's been life-flighted 3 times. He's permanently disabled. And he was basically fairly depressed when I came to town. And we put him on the liquid cannabis, and he even became the cook for the liquid cannabis. And now he's on 2 meds where he was on 5 meds, and his depression was lifted, and his Masonic brothers came in here and was just elated because David's an entertainer. So for David to be unhappy was not a natural thing. He had just gotten so unhappy because he was so drugged up all the time. Now that we've got him on the liquid cannabis and he's got his medication down to some normal level, he's back entertaining again. He just did a documentary for a book. He's also doing work for the banks now on the radio. He's a voice man. So, you know, that's one success story. Then Deidre, that lives next door, was a friend of David's. So David turned Deidre on to the tincture. Well, Deidre was blown up into Colorado in '82. She was on 5 meds. Now Deidre does 0 meds. And as she said today, she says, this is the first time that I've just been down to no meds. And it's been going on now almost a year. Her husband sat in the lobby and almost cried. Says first time he's seen her not depressed since '82. 83, excuse me. But anyhow, you got the idea, you know, because she was doing all the chemicals. So bottom line is she's off of it. Then we've got Sherry over in Hayden. Sherry comes in, I give her a free tincture. She comes back a week later, she wants to buy a tincture. So she gets her second tincture. Well, the third week she comes in with her husband. Husband wants to know what's in the tincture. I tell him, THC. You know, he says, well, that don't make any sense. He says she's been smoking pot for 10 years. We've been married for 10 years. And she threw up every single morning for 10 years. And I've taken her to all kinds of medical doctors, and you know, they say it's psychological, whatever, but when she does your liquid cannabis, she doesn't throw up. And I said, well, how much is she doing? Well, all she does is a half a dropper. I said, well, that's not very much, actually. You know, I said, you don't get high or nothing. She said, no, I don't feel it, but all I know is it relaxes me somehow, and I don't throw up in the morning. Well, she used it for 2 months. Now she doesn't have to use it at all. Now she's already done, you can Google her if you Google the Steamboat Pilot, and she's already done a thing in the newspaper about how well it worked for her. And then I've got currently 4 men that's in their 60s and 70s that use it for restless leg syndrome. And they love it because they say they wake up and they're cramping, they just spray it on there and it goes away. And we kind of slowly woke up to the realization that it works almost better topically than it does oral. I've got more people using it for muscle pain and stuff of that nature than I do orally. But yet, I'll think of her name here in a second. Pam, she was run over by a coal truck back about 7 years ago over on 20 Mile. Well, she came in because of Sherry saying how good the tincture worked, and she's got 39 pounds of titanium in her. So when she wakes up in the morning, her muscles are extremely contracted. So she does, now she just wakes up, reaches to her nightstand, grabs the tincture, sprays 3 or 4 sprays in her mouth, and it makes her muscles relax. Now she can walk immediately. She doesn't have to go through this stretching exercise to get to where she can move. And she says, as far as she's concerned, it's just a gift. Because, you know, she's stuck with this titanium and these muscles don't like it, so this makes it work for her. So, but there again, the more she uses it, the less she has to have. It's not like the more they use it, the more they need. She's down to only using it every other day now, where she was using it every single day for almost the first 6 months. But, you know, that's where that one's going. Sherry's a personal friend of mine. I've known since '88. She came down with cancer 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Basically was expected to die a year ago, stage 4. They got her down to where they were giving her hours to die. Well, Sherry's a very strong-willed person. She's a entertainer, you know, actress type person. So she just decided that if she was going to die, she wanted to die at home. So she left the hospital and went home. Well, to make a long story short, we put her on the tincture. Well, she threw away all of her other meds. Now she's got her own apartment. Now she's working on her documentary. And she said, Jacob, she says, I might be dying of cancer. I don't really know and don't really care because now I feel so good that even if I'm dying, at least I can die happy. Because before I was on so many medication, I just sat around the house depressed and worried about dying. So I consider Sherry a good success story. Yeah. And there again, Sherry does not do that much. We're talking about, you know, a very small amount. We're talking, you know, less than a dropper full. Because these people are finding that it's kind of like Bach flower remedies. If you understand Bach flower remedies, 1 or 2 drops will calm you down. Like a lot of your ambulances nowadays carry rescue remedy. And when it comes to herbal remedies, sometimes less is better. I had some people coming in and abusing it. I said, don't use so much. And then they'd come back and say, it works better when I do just a little bit. I said, yeah, because, you know, sometimes with herbal remedies, it's not necessary to try to kill yourself with it. Then I've got the extreme cases where they come in, they can't get out of pain no matter what they do, but now they just take the whole bottle, which is 60 sprays in a little, you know, 10 millimeter bottle, and they just drink the whole bottle. And, oh, Jacob, I'm out of pain for 6 hours. But now, there's only a few of those. There's 3 girls in town that use it for menstrual cramps. They do not smoke pot. They only use it for menstrual cramps. Their father was one of my restless leg people. They got the bright idea to try it for that. After they Googled it and saw in 1909 it was recommended for menstrual cramps. And in 1909 it was recommended for muscle cramps, and it's the #1 most recommended thing for MS seizures. One of my patients is an MS patient. He's a very humble man and a very proud man, and unfortunately he doesn't like to take the free tincture I give him, because all my sick people I give it to him. And so he only wants to do it when he can work or trade it off. But anyhow, he says, Jacob, he says, the Valium works okay, but he says, that tincture, he says, I never get a seizure when I do the tincture. And that's what they said in 1909. Liquid cannabis for preventive seizures.